So get this. A major global power has just officially labeled a part of another country's military as a terrorist group. Yep, the European Union has drawn a line in the sand with Iran, and it's a move that has been years in the making. It's already sending shockwaves through international politics. So what exactly happened here? And why is this decision so incredibly controversial? Okay, let's dive right in with the powerful statement that really set the stage for all of this. These words frame the decision not just as some political game, but as a moral stand, a direct response to what's been happening on the ground inside Iran. And the move was decisive. On January 29th, after years of intense back-and-forth debate, the EU officially designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, you'll hear them called the IrGC, as a terrorist organization. And look, this wasn't some snap decision. It was the culmination of a very long and very heated discussion among all the member states. So, to really get why this is such a massive deal, we first have to understand who or what the IrGC actually is. We're not just talking about any old military unit here. This is a uniquely powerful force inside the Iranian state, and its influence stretches far, far beyond the battlefield. Here's the key thing to wrap your head around. The IrGC runs parallel to Iran's regular army. It was created for one specific reason: to protect the Islamic Republic's system of government. And its loyalty? That's directly to the supreme leader. With its own ground troops, its own navy, its own air force, not to mention huge economic power and everything from construction to telecoms, it is, for all intents and purposes, a state within a state. All right, let's switch gears and look at the EU's official reasoning. What specific events actually triggered this? Why, after so many years of hesitation, did they decide that now was the time to act? At the very heart of the justification is this just staggering number. Estimates cited by human rights groups suggested that over 30,000 people may have been killed during Iran's crackdown on domestic protests. That figure became a huge rallying cry for those arguing that a line had well and truly been crossed. And behind that huge number are these very specific accusations of serious human rights violations that have been leveled directly at the IrGC. The EU points to a pattern of brutal suppression, so-called revenge campaigns against ordinary citizens, and even the targeting of doctors who were just trying to help the injured, all while controlling the narrative by shutting down internet access. And make no mistake, this designation isn't just some symbolic slap on the wrist. No, this has real legal and financial teeth. Any assets the IrGC holds in the EU are now frozen, and it's now a criminal offense for any person or company in the EU to give them any kind of financial or material support. This puts a ton of pressure not just on the IrGC's wallet, but on the very delicate diplomatic relationship between Europe and Iran. But, that's the official story from the EU's perspective. Now we're going to look at a totally different angle, one that really questions whether this is about the consistent application of international law or if maybe something else is at play here. And this really gets to the core of the whole debate. On one side, you have the EU saying, look, we're taking a principled stand against a state body committing horrific abuses. But on the other side, you've got critics calling it a clear act of double standards. They point out that other state militaries that have faced accusations of serious violations have not received the same terrorist label. And that critique really suggests that the terrorist label isn't being applied based on some neutral, objective standard. The argument is that it's actually being used as a powerful political tool of Western foreign policy, applied to adversaries, but not necessarily to allies, no matter what their actions are. Okay, so let's widen the lens a little bit and see how this decision fits into the bigger global picture and what other major countries are saying about it. Because, a move this big doesn't just happen in a vacuum. And as you can see, the EU is the latest, but they're definitely not the first major Western power to take this step. The United States designated the IrGC way back in 2019, and Canada and Australia followed suit, creating this sort of coordinated front among these allies. The reactions from around the world pretty much immediately showed a clear global divide. Iran, of course, called it a major strategic mistake, and its ally Russia warned against any destabilization. But what's really telling, I think, is the position of a close ally like the UK. While they welcomed the EU's move, they stopped short of doing it themselves because they were worried it could get their diplomats kicked out of Tehran. It's a perfect example of how this kind of designation complicates everything, even among friends. So, after all is said and done, this entire situation really boils down to this one single provocative question. This decision by the EU forces all of us to confront the incredibly blurry line between a state's sovereign military and an entity that can be labeled a terrorist group. It's a question that challenges the very rules of the international system, and more importantly, how those rules get applied.